This is here if you need it. I woke up this morning and I was thinking back to a previous version of myself. I think anyone who might have known me coming up, I think they would say that I was ambitious. I had a lot of drive. I was very motivated, very internally motivated. Whether it was making clothes or writing, I always had a vision and was very focused on it. And I was thinking about this curveball that life threw at me. Shit, maybe it's got to be 7, 8 years ago now, where I decided to start this app company. And I don't know shit about programming or anything, but I had this idea and applied that drive and focus and relentlessness to it for years. I think in all 3 years. And that very same drive and focus was what brought a whole team on and created a whole board of directors and built it out and was able to exist. Only for me to wake up and realize that I had built my own prison. I had surrounded myself with people that weren't like minded, that were at their core um, motivated by the pull of greed or control. And me at the time, I just couldn't believe that I had made this thing happen. So I was quick to acquiesce and, oh, well, you know better than me. You've done this before. And I would subvert how I felt in the hope of bringing other people in that, you know, knew the steps forward. And like I said, only to wake up one day entirely miserable, scared, panicking. I don't want to call it a psychotic break, but I wasn't in a good place. And it really, really, really affected my relationship with momentum and drive and motivation. Because if I could work this hard for this long, how could it all turn around and make me feel like this? Where's the reward in this? You know? Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore, and it was very sad, but I had to walk away from it. It ended up ending maybe a year or so after that without me, but it was a very, very difficult time, not just to walk away from something you had spent so much time working, but to have to really look your motivation and your drive in the mirror, you know, and wonder if the juice was worth the squeeze. Today, I'm called to think about the fact that rejection is protection. Rejection is protection. What's made for you is made for you. That idea wasn't my passion. It was something that I felt strongly could work. And so I dedicated all of that momentum and desire that I could channel into that. And when I left it, it led me to renegotiate everything. I always wanted to make music, but prior to building that company, I just thought it wasn't possible. I just thought that, you know, that's not a job. That's not something I could get paid for. But after that company, I looked at myself and said, dude, if you could take something that far that you don't even care about or have passion in, what about something you do actually love? And that brought me into a whole new world. That in itself has brought its own lessons and challenges, but I draw back on thinking about that time where I left that company. Rejection is protection. What do you do when the old fuel source just doesn't work anymore? When the same drives and desires and belief systems don't sync up? What all that made me do was renegotiate everything with myself. It made me look inward and say, what foundation am I building on? And I had realized that that was something I had always ignored. I had always ignored the the inner work. I was so focused on an outcome. But through that and through the eventual struggles of deciding to become a musician full time and eking my way from zero and figuring it out, it really made me sit within myself to a place I'm at today where I have a whole new relationship with my inner world. I have a whole new understanding of the person that's sitting here, and realizing that so much of that drive was founded in fear, and so much of that motivation was in trying to prove to myself that I'm good enough. I sit here now and those conversations don't exist. I sit here now feeling like I had to knock down everything and really, really start from the foundation, really start from the concrete. You hear all these people make it to some desired outcome, only to turn around and look at the rest of us and go, guys, it is not what you think up here. This is not what you think. All of your problems don't go away. And I'm sure it's way easier to say that if you got more money in your account or some acclaim or people know who you are. But I like to think that God knew, hey, I don't think he's going to learn this if he gets everything he wants. I think he'll get there and he won't have the foundation to be okay. I think there'll still be that boy in there that is terrified. There'll still be that boy in there that has no idea who he really is and is going to use something outside of himself to say, hey, look, told you, this is, yeah, I'm important. But he'll never feel important to himself. The old fuel just doesn't work anymore. That motivation by a deep insecurity, it just won't last. It won't last for me anyway. I needed to build something up. I needed to try my hardest. I needed to put everything into something to then realize that it won't be the cure. I'm grateful now. I'm grateful now because the man I am, the man I'm continuing to become, I really dug up the roots, you know? I had to run lean for a while. Didn't get to have the the acclaim or the money or anything. I had to sit in the shadows and till my own garden. I had to sit in the shadows and stop negotiating who I am to myself. I had to be open to learning to who I am, what I'm a part of. And my relationship with God has always been interesting because I don't learn through, I learn the hard way. I've always learned the hard way. And as painful as it is, the blessing is when you learn the hard way, it sticks with you. It really does. And so now, from where I sit, I know rejection is protection. The things that are for me, mainly because I now operate from my soul center, from my highest self. I try to, best I can. And in a lot of ways, it makes me renegotiate my motivation. Something I'm working through right now is my relationship with drive. What gets you up in the morning? What are you chasing? I sit with that a lot, and I don't always have the answer. Some days it feels very clear that I'm supposed to create and build and grow, and some days I wake up and I say, let me try to just be as present within myself as I can and not even and pay no mind to what the future me looks like. Either way, that old fuel source just doesn't work anymore. I don't know if anyone watching this feels that same way. If they've been burnt out before, or if they're sitting in a place now and they feel directionless. But for me, as I said, rejection is protection. The things that we wanted so bad and worked so hard for and were denied, it's only become clearer and clearer to me the fact that all that is you sharpening your blade. It's more time to become more precise. The gift is, if I wouldn't have gone through that, if I wouldn't have had to run lean and be in cold relationships and have to struggle and figure things out the hard way, I wouldn't have been able to sit here with this clarity. It's tough. I'm not going to lie, it is tough. But what you're building should be for you. And it may look a little different than your incredibly ambitious, insecure version of it in your head. But when you actually meet yourself and you actually spend time with yourself and you realize there's what you want and what you want to want. There are things you want because you have been told they're good. And there's things you want because it is what your soul is calling for. It's a gift. It really is. The old fuel just doesn't work anymore. I find myself when I can meditate and I could increase my vibration and I could sit there with enthusiasm and really lock into the present moment, my drive doesn't look like masking insecurity anymore. I feel like I bled all of that out. No, now it feels like fun. It feels like joy. It feels like chasing enthusiasm. And the blessing in that is, whether it be through these or through music or anything the world has to show me, I know that I'm arriving there as someone who doesn't need doesn't need it. Like The old fuel just doesn't work anymore. It's all a gift. It really is. Because who I am is much, much better than who I thought I could be now. The grace, the stillness, all of those things, which were a byproduct of pain, struggle, being denied, rejection. It built a whole new foundation inside of me. The inner work, the meditation, the sitting with the unhealed parts of myself, it made me into somebody that so clearly knows, at least at a baseline, what feels right and what doesn't feel right. Those antennas got sharpened. They did. So going into today for anybody, just know rejection is protection. And the things that you want will meet discomfort and difficulty. And while you're standing in the midst of it, you realize that this is pouring concrete into the foundation. This is having you optimize what you really want, not what you're told to want. I don't know if I'd have this relationship with my higher self without it. I don't know if I'd have this channel without it. I don't know if I'd see God the same way. But I know it's a gift. It really is. That was a bit of a longer one today. Hopefully you stuck around. As always, this is here if you need it.